Hola, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos a una entrevista más del Entre Nos de Sattwa. Hoy día tenemos a un invitado muy especial. Es el doctor Rudy Tanzi. Fue uno de los mentores en el Centro Chopra que tuve en algún momento, es donde lo conocí. Él, con su amabilidad innata, me concedió esta entrevista y ahora se los quiero presentar a ustedes. El doctor Rudolph Tanzi es vicepresidente de neurología y director de la Unidad de Investigación en Genética y Envejecimiento del Hospital General de Massachusetts y se desempeña como profesor de neurología en el Joseph P. and Rose F. Kennedy en la Facultad de Medicina de Harvard. El doctor Tanzi codescubrió 3 de los primeros genes de la enfermedad de Alzheimer y ha identificado varios otros en el proyecto Genoma de Alzheimer que él dirige. También descubrió el gen de la enfermedad de Wilson y participó en el descubrimiento de varios otros genes de enfermedades neurológicas. El doctor Tanzi ha publicado cerca de 500 artículos de investigación y ha recibido los premios más altos en su campo, incluido el premio de la Fundación Metropolitan Life y el premio Potamkin. Más recientemente fue incluido en la lista del 2015 o del 2015 de la revista Time como de las 100 personas más influyentes del mundo. También recibió el premio Smithsonian American Ingenuity Award en el 2015, el principal premio nacional por invención e innovación. Es coautor de los populares libros Decoding Darkness, Decodificando la Oscuridad, bestseller del New York Times, Super Brain, Super Cerebro en español, y Super Genes, Super Genes. Fue nombrado por la revista GQ o GQ como una estrella del rock de la ciencia y en su tiempo libre tocaba con la banda de Aerosmith. Entonces, quiero darle la bienvenida al doctor Rudy Tanzi. Thank you very much, doctor. Everything that you have done is so long, so amazing. Thank you for being here. It's just an honor to have you here, Dr. Tanzi.
Well, you're very welcome, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the kind introduction.
Dr. Tanzi, what did you like about neurobiology to end up specializing in it?
Well, my original interest was in genetics. So I was involved with the first study. My first book I wrote, Decoding Darkness, I talked about how I was, when I was very young, I was involved with the first study to ever find a disease gene. So we did the first genetic study back in, a long time ago, where we found the Huntington's disease gene. Mm-hmm. So we were studying families from Venezuela that have a movement disorder where they can't control the movement of their body, and called Huntington's disease. And my colleague, Jim Gasella, who was my mentor as well, he and I studied those families, and for the first time ever was able to use, human genetic analysis to find a disease gene where we had no idea what the cause is. And so after that, I wanted to be able to apply this new genetics. It's not so new anymore, but it was new then, mm-hmm. To disease. And I decided I wanted to continue with neurological disease. So then actually I was ready to go to Yale for a doctorate in genetics. And then I decided, well, I want to learn something new. Mm-hmm. So I waited a year and I applied to Harvard instead for that doctorate in neurobiology. And now I consider myself a neurogeneticist. So neuroscientist, geneticist, or neurogeneticist.
Oh, wonderful. What fills you most about your work? And conversely, what is the hardest part of being a neurobiologist
Well, the only hard part is just how much time it takes to get from point A to point B in terms of, the experiments we have to do. But it's necessary to do careful research. You have to take some time. So a lot of folks say to me, you've been working on Alzheimer's disease now 40 years. Why don't you have a cure? I say, well, it's trial and error. I mean, you come up with a good idea, and your job in the laboratory is not to prove your idea,
Okay.
but to disprove it, because you don't want to fool yourself. So you set up your experiments with the aim of trying to prove you're wrong.
Okay.
And then you can learn how much of what you thought is right. But if you go in there trying to prove you're right, then you're going to do things that might fool you.
Okay.
So, doing research, I mean, I couldn't imagine anything more fun. I'm a musician on the side, and I play with famous musicians like Aerosmith and others, but I tell people, if I had a choice of playing with a band like Aerosmith or being able to look at new data on an Excel sheet on my computer, I'm much more excited by new data,
Yeah.
So the idea of discovery, learning something new for the first time, there's really nothing better for me in terms of work. That's what I love.
It's what you love. Yeah. It seems like that, Dr. Tanzi, when you talk about it.
Yeah.
In addition to the genetic predisposition that we have towards certain diseases of health or health problems, what are the main risk factors for developing Alzheimer's?
Well, first of all, just getting old. I mean, the older you get, the more risk you have. But as you get older, and at any time in life, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're eating a bad diet, if you're not getting enough exercise, if you have a lot of stress, even if you're not interacting socially with people, if you're too lonely, if you're not taking time to grow your brain and learn new things, those will contribute to risk. On the other side of the coin, at the medical side, that's the lifestyle side. And that's why lifestyle, I use the term shield from my last book, The Healing Self, where to shield your brain, S stands for sleep, H stands for handling stress, I stands for interacting with others, E is exercise, L is learn new things, and D is diet. So diet should be a Mediterranean type diet, less red meat, more plant-based food, sleep 7 to 8 hours, maybe take on a meditation practice for stress. But even more importantly for stress, I think, is to learn how to control your expectations, Don't expect too much from others or from yourself. It's disappointment and rejection that causes the most stress. Obsessing about the past, anxious about the future, especially based on expectation, is probably one of the biggest sources of stress. So that's shield and lifestyle. Medically, the risk factors include high blood pressure. If you're overweight and you're more prone to diabetes or metabolic disease. If you smoke cigarettes. If you drink too much. It's okay to drink in alcohol, in moderation, but not drink too much. So those are the main factors there. So, and so what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So, when you check your cholesterol and you check, you keep your heart healthy, you're also keeping your brain healthy. That's why you don't want to smoke. You want to check your blood pressure, keep your blood pressure in check, keep your cholesterol in check. All that's good for the heart is good for the brain.
Perfect.
And I would say all that's good for the heart in both ways, literally and figuratively. What's good for the heart is good for the brain. Because being happy, living a life of joy, love, compassion for others is also good for the brain. So the heart What's good for the heart is good for the brain in two ways.
Then Ayurveda is just perfect. The Ayurveda style of life is just perfect, you know, because it concentrates so much in your routines, daily routines, good food, your exercise, and meditation, that it's so important. I always tell everybody, you know, that we really don't know how important meditation is in our life, you know, to keep us sane.
Yeah, well, you know, Deepak Chopra and I, together with the Nobel Prize winner, Elizabeth Blackburn,
Yeah.
and others, we did a meditation trial. And
yes, I read about that.
And so there were 30 women who were, you know, meditation trainers, someone like yourself, 30 women who were just on vacation, but eating the same food at the resort. And then 30 other women at the resort who were learning to meditate. Mm-hmm. So every day they're learning to meditate. And what we found, first of all, is that the women who meditate all the time, who were the teachers, mm-hmm. Their gene, if you looked at their genetic programs, their gene expression, it was much healthier than normal. If you looked at their biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease, they had much reduced risk for Alzheimer's, predicted risk based on biomarkers. If you looked at the aging of their cells, based on what Elizabeth Blackburn discovered, the telomerase gene, the activity was increased. So the women who meditate all the time, who were teaching, were already better to begin with. And then during the week, even got a little more better, a little more. And then the women who were learning to meditate, now after just 1 week, were going in that same direction. Gene expression was better, the markers were better. The women who were on vacation, also had changes that were good because they were relaxing, mm-hmm. but not as good as the women who were learning to meditate.
Yeah, no, meditation is amazing, Dr. Tanzi. I meditate every day, and the day that I don't have time and I just run out of the house, I feel it in myself, in my body, in my mind, everything. Because, when you meditate, even when you meditate early in the morning, you set the day. It's like you set the day, your day, the calmness and I try when I don't have time, that it's always I have time for meditation because I wake up very early in the morning to do all my routines. If I don't have time for 20 or 30 minutes, at least 5 minutes, I sit quiet with myself and close my eyes, because it's amazing what it does.
Deepak Chopra always says when people say, I don't have time to meditate.
Yeah.
He said, it's the people who, if you don't have time to meditate, you need meditation the most.
The most, exactly. Yeah, he says that. Yeah. Dr. Tanzi, key advances have been made, have been made in the early diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease using blood biomarkers. Does that mean that we will be able to detect this disease early with a blood test?
Well, we're already there. Yeah. Right now, there have been huge breakthroughs in how to detect that Alzheimer's pathology is beginning in your brain decades before symptoms. So what we know is that the pathology of Alzheimer's in the brain, what we call the senile plaques, what we call the tangles that choke the nerve cells inside, neuroinflammation, inflammation in the brain.
Yeah.
All these things begin decades before the symptoms occur. So the key is to know when it's happening, but the bigger key is to be able to stop it. So if you use the model of heart disease, right?
Yeah.
If you know you have high cholesterol, you have high blood pressure, you treat it when you're 30 years old. You don't wait until you need a bypass, right? You don't wait until you have congestive heart failure.
Exactly.
And same thing, diabetes, right? You don't wait until your pancreas breaks down before you know you have high glucose, high insulin, and you need a diabetes treatment. Mm-hmm. But in Alzheimer's, the big problem is we don't diagnose this disease until the brain has degenerated to the point of dysfunction and you already have impaired cognition or dementia.
Mhm.
So we have to turn it back. We have to be, so I am co-director of the McCance Center for Brain Health at Mass General, where we're learning all the indicators of brain health. What tells us whether the brain is healthy or not? And we want this to be part of a regular checkup.
Yeah.
So when you go to your doctor, you say you're going for your physical
Exactly.
because they don't give you a mental.
Yeah, nobody gives you mental. Yeah.
When they get from the neck up, there's no checkup, right? They get from your chin up, and what do? They look in your mouth and your nose and your eyes and your ears.
Yeah.
They look in all the holes in your head,
Yeah.
but they don't look in your brain. So that's
Exactly.
because we don't know how to do it. So I actually started a company that developed a digital device that looks at eye scanning, voice analysis, gives you a virtual reality test that will assess your brain health, called React Neuro. There are now blood tests that can tell you if you have high amyloid in your brain, if you already have tangles in your brain. So some would say, well, what good is this? Why do I want to know all this bad news if there's nothing you can do? Well, two things. One is there is something you can do. You can do more of SHIELD,
Exactly.
right?
Slowing down, we can say, the disease, or delaying.
Yeah, you can, by getting more sleep, better diet,
Exactly.
et cetera, you can help reduce your risk, even if you're starting. And you can also be, even more careful about the other risk factors, like quit smoking cigarettes or drink a little less alcohol, or eat, besides eating a better diet, get more sleep, but also, check your blood pressure more. So there's all kinds of things you can do more proactively if you know you're at risk. But then some people would say, well, big deal. That doesn't guarantee me. I mean, if I have high cholesterol, I know I can try changing my diet. And if that doesn't work, there are drugs I can take to bring cholesterol down. Are there drugs that can bring amyloid down? The amyloid in the brain?
Yeah.
Are there drugs that can stop the tangles in the brain or the neuroinflammation? Well, the good news is there are drugs like this. And now we're starting to see that as the tests that tell us there's pathology in the brain become available, now the FDA is working with us more closely to say, let's get the tests that hit that pathology ready faster. So I'm working with several companies, some of which I started. Some of them are working on your gut microbiome, the bacteria in your gut, which keep your brain healthy.
Yeah.
Others are developing drugs that bring the amyloid down. Others are developing drugs that clean the amyloid out. Others are developing drugs that stop the neuroinflammation. We're telling the FDA, we want to use these drugs before the disease strikes.
Exactly.
It's too late. You don't want to wait till the brain has degenerated to treat the brain. So we're saying if we have these drugs that stop the amyloid or stop the tangles or stop the neuroinflammation, we want to use them when people are first diagnosed with that pathology 20 years before symptoms, like we do for heart disease and cholesterol. Give us a chance to do that. Don't make us wait. Don't make us do a 20-year prevention trial. Too many people will die. So that these conversations are starting with the FDA. And the hope is that if we can come up with a number of safe natural products or drugs that stop this pathology, then the hope would be we can do the early detection with a blood test, early intervention, and stop that pathology 10, 20 years before there are symptoms. So you save the brain before there are symptoms. So you save the brain from degenerating. And that's our goal.
Yeah. No,
and we're
that's
getting there now.
Yeah, it's amazing because we can do something, because reversing brain damage, we know in Alzheimer's, is an unrealistic goal, right? Because once it's damaged. But slowing down the disease or delaying the onset of cognitive symptoms will have a huge impact on patients' quality of life, right?
Well, but I would only add to that as we wrote about in Super Brain, the brain does have an incredible ability to regenerate, right?
Yeah,
we've seen it, look at the brains of stroke patients. We talked about in Super Brain, people who had severe strokes, and then with rehabilitation, the brain can come back. I think in Alzheimer's, I agree, but the hope is that for Alzheimer patients, that if we can stop the death, stop, the damage, that we hope the brain will start to come back.
Okay.
We know that new neurons, new nerve cells can actually be born in the brain where Alzheimer's hits with just exercise,
Yes.
right? Exercise, we published a paper, exercise causes the birth of new nerve cells in the part of the brain affected in Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
It causes the production of growth factors that keep those new nerve cells alive. It helps reduce the amyloid and the inflammation. So if in a patient, we can get rid of the killers, meaning the inflammation and the pathology, and give the brain a chance to come back, those nerve cells that are there can regenerate and grow new axons, new synapses, new connections. But for that to happen, you have to stop the attack on the brain.
Exactly.
So I'm hopeful that even with patients where the brain has already gone downhill, that if we can stop the brain from going further downhill, you can help the brain to come back and restore some function in those patients as well. That's also part of it.
That would be wonderful, Dr. Tanzi. That would be just amazing. And what else can you tell us, about the advances that have been made in Alzheimer's research, for our viewers who aren't doctors, who wants to know more about the disease?
Well, I think the most exciting thing is seeing two things. First, a pathway for early detection of this disease before symptoms, like we were discussing, using blood tests, brain imaging, digital technologies, and following early detection, early intervention. Because, like in my lab, we invented the first Alzheimer's in a dish. Yeah, we created a mini human brain organoid. So it's the size of a paper punch. Picture a little mini organoid of a human brain, size of a paper punch. And you have a tray the size of an index card with 96 wells in it. And each one you have a mini brain. And in that mini brain, in 1 month, you have all of Alzheimer's disease happening. Plaques, tangles, neuroinflammation. So now that means that we can make testing known drugs, approved drugs, safe drugs, natural products, Ayurvedic products, you name it, right? Now you can test everything 100 times faster and 100 times cheaper than using mice. And even better, as a vegetarian and animal lover,
Exactly.
we don't have to use the mice. We don't have to hurt the mice. So we've done this. For the last 5-6 years, we've screened every approved drug that's safe. We screened many herbal remedies, Ayurvedics, Chinese herbal medicine, supplements. I now have a list of 150 products, some approved drugs, mostly natural products, where I know which ones stop the plaques, which ones stop the tangles, which ones stop the inflammation. I know I have to use the ones that stop the plaques and tangles very early, because that's the first thing that happens. 20, 30 years before the symptoms, that happens. I know for the inflammation, this is the best way to stop the killing in the patient who's already suffering. For the patient who's already has dementia, this is how we stop the killing. It's mainly at this point, inflammation. So I can now use these right drugs in the right time and the right people to try to stop the disease, prevent the disease, or treat the disease. And because of this, we're now starting a big effort with new clinical trials where I'm testing things that you've heard of in Ayurvedic medicine. I'm testing ashwagandha. Ashwagandha actually helps remove amyloid from the brain, for example. I'm testing bacopa. Bacopa helps induce neurogenesis. So now we can take these products and say, here's the data from the lab. And then we can raise money to do combinations of these in clinical trials, some for prevention, some for treatment, all because we recreated the Alzheimer's in a dish without having to use mice, and made things 100 times faster, 100 times cheaper, and much better for the mice. So that's what I'm most excited about. So when I say two things, one thing is early detection, early prevention, and the other thing is treatment of patients now. But I think repurposing known safe drugs, repurposing known natural products that are safe, because we can learn now which pathologies of Alzheimer's they stop, and then use them at the right time. So for example, the plaques, right? Amyloid plaques, senile plaque, it's too late. It's too late. If you have a patient with Alzheimer's, stopping the plaque is too late.
Exactly.
It's like the forest fire of inflammation. The forest fire is blazing and you're trying to blow out the match. There was the plaque. So we know that, but on the other hand, if you show me somebody 40 years old and the blood test says they already have amyloid and they're at higher risk for this disease 30 years from now, I want to hit the amyloid then.
Exactly.
With something safe, like a natural product or a approved drug that's safe. Just like if you find out you have high cholesterol when you're 40, you take a drug to bring your cholesterol down to avoid heart disease 30 years later. We want to do this. Now we can think about doing the same thing for Alzheimer's disease. And that's what's most exciting.
That would be amazing because in my family, I had my grandmother, who had Alzheimer and some uncles, and it's just a very sad, illness. It destroyed the person, right? It's a lot of friends who have, it kills you. Yeah.
It steals you of who you are. It robs you of yourself. It robs your loved ones of yourself. I like to say, like, in your brain, you have tens of billions, maybe 100 billion nerve cells, making tens of trillions, up to hundreds of trillions of connections.
Yes.
Synapses. So every choice you make in life leads to an experience. Every experience you have in life is modifying and reshaping those 100 billion nerve cells and the trillions of connections they make, called your neural network. So now your brain is like a tapestry that has recorded all the experiences of your life, to not just the memories and thoughts, but also the feelings and emotions that come with it.
Yeah.
And every night when you dream, you are recreating your experiences in life, influenced by the emotions of the day.
Yes.
Influenced by the thoughts of the day. And I like to say dreams are movies based on real events.
Yeah.
So your dreams are like movies, but they're fictional. They're created by you, but they're based on real events in your life. They actually help your brain to consolidate your memories, not just the memories as thoughts and experiences, but the feelings and emotions that come with it.
Yes.
So all of that's like a big tapestry in the brain that creates, your personality, who you are, how people know you. Of course,
sorry, Doctor.
Of course, I also believe that the real you is in the soul. That is a whole other story, right? But what Alzheimer's does is by destroying those synapses, the connections.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't know what it's. Sorry. Continue, Dr. Tanzi.
So by destroying these connections, it's like you have a tapestry and you're taking each thread and you're tearing apart this tapestry thread by thread. And then that, as with a tapestry, when you tear apart the threads, the further you go, the easier it is to tear it apart. So the threads come apart faster and faster as you begin to destroy the tapestry. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens in this disease. The real you is in there. I mean, I wrote a song with Chris Mann. Chris Mann is a famous singer, and we wrote a song called Remember Me.
Yeah, Remember Me.
Which is about this. It's to say, okay, the tapestry's been torn away thread by thread, and the patient may not know the person he sees in the mirror anymore, but the real person is still in there.
Exactly.
The real person is still in there. So, remember me because I'm still here. I'm still inside. It's just that the manifestation of me in my brain has been taken away by this disease.
Yes. I remember a story of a couple. They were an older couple, and she had Alzheimer, and she was in a home, right? And her husband will go and visit her every day, and everybody will tell him, why are you visiting her if she doesn't recognize you? She doesn't even know that you're there. And he looked at the person and said, but I know who she is. She's still there. She's still there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, because she didn't disappear. She's still there.
No, she's still there, but she's also still experiencing his love, compassion,
Exactly.
and that's a really good medicine for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and because they still with the old memory, it's very fresh on them, right? Because they remember
The
everything.
long-term memories,
The long-term memory.
they stay for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They remember when they were little, all the, they remember everything, the long memory.
And even when they can't, it gets back to what I said about dreams.
Yeah.
They're still having thoughts and experiences based that may now be fictional. And in some cases, it can even turn into delusional or paranoid, which is not so good. But they're still having experiences that are based on real events, just like your dreams do for you at night. No, we don't record our lives perfectly. We're not recorders, right? We have experiences that create emotions and then ideas about events.
Yeah.
So when you dream at night, you're recreating events in some fictional way. And that's just as much to remember the emotion and feeling associated with the event as it is the event itself. We're not perfect recorders. So in Alzheimer's, there's still that ability to evoke feeling, to evoke love, compassion, joy versus fear, frustration, anxiety. And by this man visiting his wife, he's doing a great service to her.
Exactly.
Even though she doesn't know who he is, he's doing selfless service to her.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's amazing. Well, Dr. Tanzi, we are almost at the end of our interview, and I would like to ask you about a book that really changed my point of view about the brain. Dr. Tanzi, you co-wrote with Dr. Deepak Chopra two books, right? One is Super Brain.
3 books.
3 books, yeah, three. Super Brain, Super Genes, and
The Healing Self.
The Healing Self.
Yeah.
Super Brain, because I'm going to read The Healing Self, right? But Super Brain, this is a book that really gave me enormous information about how my brain works. And I really like the book because it's written in a very easy to understand language, right? In the chapter about depression, one thing caught my attention right from the beginning. You say, we are going to take another step towards showing you how to use your brain instead of letting it use you. That was, I have that in my head all the time.
Me too.
Depressions affect millions of people all over the world, and considering the time that we are living in, right, it is a subject worth talking about. What can you tell us about depression and the brain, how the brain works on this matter, and how we can cope with depression?
Yeah, well, first, as I said in the book, if your depression is very severe and you have clinical depression, of course, my book won't be enough. You might need to see a doctor for
Exactly.
You might need medication, right?
Yes.
But for those where you're depressed, not clinically depressed, but depressed or down, maybe you wake up in the morning not so happy. You wake up in the morning worrying. The idea behind Superbrain, and you hit it on the head, the number one rule, and this is why I wrote the book, because, and I was so happy Deepak would write it with me, because I wanted to get across a simple idea. And this gets back to the real you we were talking about before. The real you is inside, and it's everything about you. Like The Healing Self, the last book, the word heal comes from the word whole, to be whole. The word whole gives rise to the word holy, holistic, heal. So the real you is all of you, mind, body, and soul, and brain. Your brain is an organ just like your stomach. It just serves a role in the body that you have the privilege of owning and occupying. I would say let's say as a soul, right? So your brain has a job, very simple job. It brings you 4 things. And this is Dan Siegel's terminology, who's a great author as well. Dan says the brain brings you SIFT, S-I-F-T, SIFT.
Sift.
S is sensations. Everything, your eyes, ears, nose, everything you smell, touch, feel, taste, senses, sensations.
Yeah.
I is imagination or images. As you read all day, you're recalling thoughts, feelings about your life as images, imagination. Okay. F is feelings. Your brain brings you feelings, emotions. Yeah. Your brain brings you T, thoughts. Mm-hmm. Thoughts are different than imagination. Thoughts are concepts. I have to do this, thinking. Most thoughts come in the form of words. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these laryngeal sounds are reiterated in your brain as thoughts in one brain region. So in the book, we say, look, if you see a red car, you would say, I see a red car. Yeah. You wouldn't say, oh, look, I'm a red car.
Exactly.
Right? Your brain's bringing you the image of the red car.
Yeah.
Now, if that red car drives through mud and splashes it all over your face, right? It's going to make you angry. And you might now say, I'm so angry. I'm so angry with that car did. And later on, you think, I even knew the guy driving and he didn't stop for me. I'm so sad he did that. Well, your brain is just doing something else. Your brain is bringing you the feeling of anger. Yes. Just like your brain brought you the sight of the car, just like your brain brought you the feeling of the mud hitting your skin, your brain brings you the feeling, emotion of anger. Why? Because it's for survival, right? If your brain didn't make you feel angry about what happened, next time you might not try to avoid it. Or if this person's attacking, in other words, the feelings help you survive. Exactly. That's why your brain brings you them. But I argue, in the book, we argue it's just as crazy to say, I am angry, as it is to say, I am a red car.
Exactly.
It's only what your brain is bringing you.
Yeah.
So you have to, so I like to talk about what the founding guru of the Kauai Hindu monastery, where I like to go, and I've done the retreats and inner searches, meditation there. But the Satguru who started the Kauai Hindu monastery, Guru Deva, as he's endearingly called, said, you have to take on what's called mountaintop consciousness, meaning you sit on the mountain.
Exactly.
And you observe what your brain is bringing you. You don't identify with it. So people might say, well, wait, then how can you live fully? You have to immerse yourself in emotion and passion to really live life. That's okay. You can dip your toe in the water. Okay? You can dip your toe in the water. You can jump in the pool, but don't drown there. Get back out.
Yeah.
So in other words, the mountaintop consciousness, you sit on the mountain, once in a while, dive in the pool of joy, dive in the pool of sadness, dive in the pool of warmth, right? But get back out and dry yourself off. Don't get attached to it.
Exactly.
So we're not saying to totally become like a robot by just saying, oh, my brain is bringing me anger. My brain is bringing me this, right? We're just saying, be aware that this is just an organ in your body doing its job for you. So don't let your brain, so when it gets out of hand, now you're sad, you can't break out of it. You're mad, you can't break out of it. Remember, your brain at that point is using you. You're not using your brain. Exactly. So you have to ask yourself at every moment, am I using my brain right now, or is my brain using me?
Yeah, it's like when you get angry and you do something that you regret after. It's because your brain is using you.
Never say I get angry, right? Yeah. Never say I am angry. Just say my brain is doing its job. It's bringing me the feeling of anger. And you know what? I'm going to feel that anger for a bit because I need to know what I need to learn from it. So I'm going to jump in that pool of anger for a bit. But now I'm going to get back off and dry off. Get out of the pool and dry off again.
Exactly.
Get back on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
There's a big diving board on the mountaintop. You can jump into these pools, but you have to go back up.
Yeah, you can see a lot of that in people that they are always angry and bitter, and it's because they jumped into the pool and never came out. They
never come out because they feel safe in the pool as well. Yeah. Because they think this is where I'm right all the time. I'm right. I'm angry and I have a right to be angry and I like feeling right. So I'm going to stay in this pool of anger.
Yeah.
Well, what they don't realize is they're also drowning. So
Exactly.
you have to get back out, dry off, and go back on top of the mountain.
Yes, of course. How can we cope with depression, Dr. Tanzi? After that, all that you say, recognize that
Well,
your brain is using you.
I think the first step is to know that your brain is bringing you the feeling of depression for a reason.
Mm.
The brain has no choice to do that. The brain is just doing its job for you, for you. So once you know, okay, my brain is doing this for me, why does my brain feel like it has to do this for me? It's because, and then you start asking what happened, or what are all the things that are happening right now that are depressing me? And you just start recapitulating them. You do a recapitulation exercise. I like Carlos Castaneda's version. I'm a big Castaneda fan.
Castañeda?
Yeah, and so Castaneda, and so is Deepak. So
Yeah.
the idea is that you do the breathing exercise where you turn your head to the left and take a breath in, and then recall something that makes you angry or sad or something that evoked a lot of emotion, and then breathe out, turning your head all the way to the right and get rid of it. And you just and little by little, you recapitulate all the things. What's making me sad today? What's making me angry today? What's making me worry today? What's making me jealous today? Right? Why is, and I say making me jealous, right? I just misspoke. The real question is, why is my brain bringing me anger today? Why is my brain bringing me sadness today? Why is my brain bringing me jealousy today? Your brain is doing it to you. Step back and detach from it. And then the next step is to ask why your brain was doing that and get rid of it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're super sad, like you lose a loved one, somebody can just laugh at me and say, yeah, good luck with that. I just lost someone I loved my whole life. I'm going to be sad for a while. And that pool of sadness, you have to swim around in that one for a while before you can dry out.
Yeah.
But the question is, how long do you have to stay in the pool? And sometimes you have to stay in longer than other times. But the key is to know you have to get out.
Yeah, I remember Dr. Tanzi, because we talked before recording the interview. I told you about my daughter, right? That she passed away when she was 18 years old. And I remember being in that pool of sadness, right? But I knew, because I told myself every day, one day I'm going to get out of here. I need to be here. Everybody was telling me, for example, take this pill. And I was like, no, I need to pass everything. I need to feel this. I need to cry. I need to be angry. I need to let my brain, allow me to feel everything that my brain is bringing me. Because if I don't do that, that was my thinking, if I don't do that, later on, like in 2-3 years, I will realize that I didn't have time to do the morning, and it will be worse.
It's kind of like, it's almost like you feel like you have to stay in the pool longer to show respect.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I mean, you're sad, but you also, as much as you want to jump out of that pool, you think, I owe it to myself to recapitulate more about this person while I'm in this pool, only thinking about that before I get out.
exactly.
But you have to remember to get out.
Yes.
You have to always remember that when your brain causes you to dive into the pool of an emotion, each event has its own length of time in which you have to stay in the pool. Most of them every day, you're dipping your toe and pulling it back out. You want to mostly have events where you just dip your toe and pull out.
Exactly.
But sometimes you have to dive in and stay in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that happens to me, the first years I was there and I was feeling everything, and I knew I was going to get out, and I was going to, instead of why me, I was going to ask myself, what can I do with this, with this experience? And I had a depression, if I can say like that. That is the most horrible thing that I felt in my life, for a month. And then after, I was talking to my brain all the time, and I recovered. I went out of that depression, and it's why I'm so into emotions, because I've been there. I know how it is, and a lot of people stays there because they think that if they jump out of the pool, you will be unfair with the person that died.
Yes, exactly.
It's not that. It's not that, because I remember my daughter saying to me, Mom, I'm so happy when I see you smile. You know,
Yeah.
and how can I be in that pool if she loves seeing me smiling?
And there's also the expectation. So you might expect that others expect you to stay in the pool longer to show.
Exactly, exactly.
So, there's lots of expectation plays a huge role in our general well-being.
Yeah.
I mean, for people like I know at Harvard, for example, with this expectation of being respected and the self-importance, Castaneda said self-importance, if you had a house and looked at what's taking up the most energy in the house, self-importance is the refrigerator or the air conditioner. It takes up the most energy.
Yes.
So, the more you can let go, and people say, well, if I let go of self-importance, then I let go of my strength. No, self-importance is expecting others to tell you you're important. Don't look for external validation. You don't need external validation. The only reason we look for external validation is we're raised as children to want mommy to pat us on the back and say, good boy.
Exactly.
That's fine as children. Then you got to grow out of that. I know people at my level who have amazing scientific careers. They hit around 50, 60 years old, and they spend all their time just campaigning to get awards, whether it's a Nobel Prize or this or that, right? They stop doing work. They stop their work and work on how to get the next award. Why? Because they never grew out of that childhood of how good they feel when mommy or daddy pats them on the back and say, good boy, good boy. Yeah. But at some point, you got to say, I don't need somebody to tell me good boy. I know I'm a good boy. And so these are the things that you get to when you don't let your brain use you, because all that conditioning, all those belief systems are just going to run you like a robot, like an automaton, unless you step back and say, wait a minute, well, why do I need other people to tell me how good I am?
Yeah.
And then you figure it out and you say, oh yeah, because I grew up like that. And I used to love when everybody thought I was a good boy. But yeah, so just be a good boy anyway. So these are the things when you're observing what your brain is bringing you, rather than identifying with it and rather than controlling it. Yeah. This is the key to success, because people think, oh, I have to, now that I see what my brain is doing, I have to control it. No, you can't control the brain as much as you can't control a young child. Yeah. Just like a toddler, you observe the toddler and guide them in the right direction. You try to control them, resistance leads to persistence.
Yes.
Right? So all you can do is observe and guide, gently put in this direction or that direction. But to try to vehemently control leads to failure.
Yeah. Yeah. So
if anybody who's really depressed say, I know, I'm just going to control my depression, forget it. You have to observe the depression, ask how you got there, and slowly guide it away. Make space. I like to say, make space in your mind and push it off to the side. Make space. In a meditation, make space and push those emotions off to the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said in the beginning, some people need some medication, right? Some to go to the doctor.
Some people, that's right. In clinical depression, everything I'm saying has limited value. There are some people who truly medically need help, and that should always be observed as well.
But people who has like mild depression or anxiety, and because of everything that is going around in the world and things like that, we can, like you said, not let our brain control us. And we cannot control, even when you have you desire, you want to eat something, and when you resist and you are like, no, I'm not going to eat that. No, I'm not going to eat that. You end up eating the whole thing. It's better to take just a little piece and eat it. And just, that's it.
That's why we don't say, don't let your brain control you, control your brain. That doesn't work. Don't let your brain use you.
Use you.
Let you use your brain.
Yeah.
Your brain serves you. Don't serve your brain. Okay, the brain is the servant, not you. Always know, who's the servant right now, me or my brain? You have to ask that question.
Yeah, I'm the pilot. Thank you very much, Dr. Tanzi. It's been an amazing, amazing time with you, and I hope to see you soon somewhere, and Thank you very much for this interview and for your time.
You're very welcome. Great to talk to you. Great to see you, Laura. And till next time, thank you.
I'm going to say bye to our viewers and then I say bye to you again. Muchas gracias por su atención, el doctor Rudy Tanzi, y en los comentarios, en el comentario les voy a colocar el nuevo libro que él escribió junto al doctor Deepak Chopra, aparte de Supercerebro y Supergenes. Muchísimas gracias y a mí solo me resta decirles namaste. Thank you very much, Dr. Tanzi. I had a great time. Thank you. And I hope to see you. Bye, Dr. Tanzi. See you. Bye-bye.